I know that it's no secret that MUFON's been meeting with Congress in Washington on a quarterly basis for a couple of years now, at least. But I don't know that it's necessarily super well known either. So that's why I wanted to have the sort of the main focus of this conversation to be that, and ask you, what is it like to go to Washington and meet with our electeds to talk about UFOs?
Well, on one hand, it's quite an adventure. It's an honor. But on the other hand, it's a grind because we may have 7, 8 meetings, 9 meetings set up in a day. And one meeting is at this location, the next one's across town, then that one's down here someplace else. So, I mean, it's really a hectic schedule to keep up with. But at the time, we have been requested by, I believe it's 285 congressional members and 70 plus senatorial people to supply them with quarterly reports on the UFO situation. And we do that. Back when this first started, 23, 24, we was in Washington, I go sometimes twice a month. And
Oh,
just one meeting after another, and the demand was quite high. And it was fascinating to meet with these folks because almost all of them said they have never in their entire career seen the level of bipartisanism as there is on this topic. Both sides, lockstep, they want the truth, and they're not getting the truth, and they know it. So we've been in there. We supply them with a lot of information. There are bills that's been passed. There's all kinds of things going on. Getting it to fruitation's another story. But it's a fascinating thing. We have a tremendous amount of support in Washington, and I truly, in my heart of hearts, think that we've done some pretty impressive inroads. Many of the congressional people have spoken at the symposiums. I believe we're going to have one or two at the next one coming up this summer.
nice.
And I like to think we've done well. We've certainly got the recognition in Washington. And I'll tell you a funny story. To me, it was because I don't really, I don't really, I'm kind of a nobody. And
I wouldn't say that.
leaving a restaurant one evening, and sitting over right next to the door was Chuck Schumer. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he said, "Hi, Dave, how are you?" And I said, "I'm fine, sir. How are you?" I never met the man in my life until that time. So
Wow.
sometime later, we was at their offices because you rarely deal with the actual congressperson or senator. You usually deal with the chiefs of staff, and that's the true key. Most people don't know that. They're the ones that get it done. And I asked him, there's this chief of staff, and I said I was caught off guard. I said I never met the gentleman before, but he recognized, he called me by name. And the guy looked at me and laughed. He said, "Dave, everybody in Washington knows you." So I think that's a nice compliment for myself and for MUFON that there is recognition, and it's spread. So it's been an incredible adventure. We have not been back to Washington except for once this year so far, sorely. But elections going on, all this craziness going on. So it's quite an adventure. I look forward to working with them more often, getting back into the program, and keeping the ball rolling. So that it's pretty neat.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm sure you'll be back. I mean, we're recording in April 2025 at this point, so we're still early in the year. And so I'm wondering, well, I'm actually kind of curious, how did this even come about in the first place? Did anyone from Washington reach out to MUFON? Did MUFON reach out to Washington? Like, how did that come to be where you started going there and sharing the stories and such? the cases?
Actually, MUFON has a long history of working with the government, further back than you might think.
Really?
Um, as a matter of fact, in the 70s, one of the, at that time, board members of MUFON, a fellow very famous man, he would go to Washington once a month. It's Leonard Stringfield. And he would
Uh,
face to face, eyeball to eyeball with the president. It was Nixon at that time,
oh,
and give him a report on the UFO studies. So we're going back to the 70s on that.
Wow.
And that continued up through Jimmy Carter. And he actually made the statement, President Carter, that I will never laugh at a person who says they've seen a UFO because I've seen one. And then after that, it kind of tapered off to. But let's go back even further. Let's go back to 1969 when MUFON first formed. And the reason it formed was because it was a backlash to the closing of Project Blue Book. And when that happened, no one had anywhere to file reports to get any kind of information. So MUFON said, we'll do it. The Air Force said, okay, here's the papers to fill out, here's the forms, here's the procedures. The FBI came in with a 12-step investigative program to teach our investigators proper techniques. And that was in 1969. And here we are, largest and oldest UFO investigating agency in the world. And we're still rocking. We've had some hard times last year. God, computer problems, jeez. But all of that is slowly coming behind us. And we're doing quite well. But yeah, MUFON has been involved for quite some time. And this is just the latest thrust, so to speak.
oh, that's awesome. I had no idea that it went back that far with the government, as it were. I mean, I know it only started in 1969, but just for clarification, though, too, because I was actually approached by, or not approached by, but a friend of mine at one point said to somebody else when they were introducing me, he's like, "Yeah, he works for MUFON. They're a government agency," and I was like, "Oh no, we're not a government agency." So just to clarify that, when you say that MUFON has been working with the U.S. government almost since the inception. Can you confirm that I'm not unknowingly working for a government agency?
Absolutely. We are not a government entity in any way. We have no connection with the CIA or anyone else. So trust me, guys, we're not. We're absolutely independent.
All right, excellent. So, Stuart, do you have any? I mean, I got a bunch of questions here, but do you want to chime in with anything?
Yeah, one of the ones I was interested in, please, David, is would you say most MUFON investigators are experiencers, and how important would that aspect be for an investigator? And also, are you what you would term an experiencer?
Oh, well, first of all, yes, I have seen unidentified objects only twice. And I've got thousands and thousands of hours in the cockpit, and I've never seen anything in the air that I couldn't identify. But we would give airplane rides at the local airport, and we'd set up back on the back deck and do the airplane rides. And one evening, it got to be about 10 o'clock, and we thought, oh, well, I think we're done, guys. Myself, two other pilots. So we said, okay, let's shut down, and you can walk to the end of the portico and into the bar. So let's go get a beer. We've been working all day. Okay. Well, just about the time we got to the door, I looked out across the field, and there was a red ball slowly moving across the field. And it was very reminiscent of, say, like a Roman candle ball, except it moved out, stopped right at the windsock, and boom, went right down into the ground. And
Oh,
I just looked at the other guys. They looked at me, and at that time, our radio kicked on, and it was the tower. And all the man said was, "Did anybody else see that?"
Oh, wow.
And I
dang.
keyed the mic. I said, "Yes, sir, the Flamingo crew saw it." And he said, "We will speak no more of this." So that was my first actual physical event that I saw. And then I had another sighting um, while I was investigating another UFO. Those are the only two jaw droppers that I have ever personally experienced.
That's
That's
fascinating.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, why is it? I mean, maybe it's speculation, right? But why is it like when the tower comes on and said, "Yeah, anyway, see it," and yes, and then they're like, "We will not speak any more of it." Why is it always been like this? Never happened. Like, what's the big darn deal about that?
Well, I think going back to the early days, particularly 40s, 50s, 60s, you had a Cold War going on. Um, there was all kind of reasons why they didn't want anybody to get the idea that we did not have control over our own skies. I think that was
Mm.
the big thing. But the questions asked of me, no matter where I go, is why? Why do they not just tell us? I mean, we grew up with Star Trek and Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica, and I'm old enough to remember Flash Garden, Cat Video and the Video Rangers. I mean, space travel and particularly other life forms, really, it's old hat. We're not going to flip out. We're not going to go crazy in the streets. Um, so I my I have two possible answers. One is the powers that be don't want the rest of the world to know what we've got. And I can sympathize with that. I don't think we necessarily need to know everything our government knows. There are security issues, and I understand that. But come on, guys, it's getting to be time now. We're not buying the story anymore. The other, and this is purely Dave speaking as a business person, it could be economic. What if the president did come out today and say, "Folks, we've been lying to you for 89 years. There really is extraterrestrial life out there, and they're here, and they're our trading partners. And wow, we got free fuel for everybody. Now you got panic in the streets." Think about it for a minute. That would rock us badly. Almost all of the financial systems in the world are based on oil at one time or another. So you can just imagine if, poof, we don't need it anymore. That's just me speaking. So those are the only two reasons I could really think of that would make any sense not to let the people know what's going on.
That does make a lot of sense. Um, I'm gonna have to ponder that one a little bit because I've often thought about that too. Like, okay, with the idea of free energy and stuff, it's like, from my perspective, it's not the end of the proverbial end of the world, right? We'll move on, we'll figure it out, and we'll create new industries of some kind. But when you put it the way that you did, I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit more to see if I still agree with what I thought before. Maybe it is a bigger deal than
Just
what I'm realizing.
just consider this for a minute. Tesla was right, and there's
Yeah.
very good evidence that upon his death, all his research and records were seized. There's more than ample evidence. But his concept was, well, we set up a worldwide grid, draw energy from I think it was the ionosphere, and There it is, free power, free electric power. They're making a big deal out of electric cars today with battery packs that cost $30,000 if they go bad. Well, what if all you needed was an antenna that big on the top of your car and you never had to recharge it? You'd never run out of fuel. Can you see the problem there?
Uh, Stuart, you got to jump in on that one.
Well, yeah, I've been fascinated for a while by the fact that there's a car brand called Tesla. It's an electric vehicle. And I wondered if the groundwork or preparation was being done by that gentleman in bringing this technology forward.
Well, it certainly could be, but at the time they're going with standard batteries. When I say standard, I mean to our standards. Using lithium, which is immensely expensive, not at all good for the environment, the mining of it. So no matter what you do, you got a trade-off. You have to sacrifice this to get that. But when it comes to you through the air, man, that'd be hard to beat. But again, that's just my rhetoric.
Yeah, no, it's great. With Stuart and I, at one point, I don't know if it made it into one of our conversations, but he was postulating, like, what if Elon was doing this and all he's got to do is flip a switch, and he was like, "Yo, people, you don't have to charge your cars anymore because you're getting it through the air." That would be freaking wild.
Yeah, wouldn't it though?
Yeah.
To do to the world as far as energy goes, it'd be a godsend on one hand, but you're going to have economic systems that's just going to collapse.
Temporarily, for sure. Like that's why I said, like, I had to think about it, because I would like to believe that some enterprising people would just simply come up with new industries or new products in some manner. But in any event, I want to kind of reel us back into the main part. If what can you give us a couple examples of, like, cases that you may have shared with our elected officials?
Well, not any in when I say we supply them with data, it's strictly statistical data. We use the same confidentiality standards that MUFON has used from day one. So what we do is, they get reports, breakdown by state, broke down by country. This many have been reported in this quarter, and it's all statistical. There's no names. There's no real. What can I say? Nobody is at risk. Put it that way. There are some, particularly most of the congressional fellows and ladies. Well, they're interested in their own state. Have we had much activity in this state? Yeah, and here's some cases of interest, and we'll give them kind of the details on that. Again, there's no names, there's no contact information, and they're all real interested in hearing about their own state, and a number of them will say, "Oh yeah, it was a big deal back when this happened." Okay, we'll give you the details on it. Here's what we got. So we really do. We get a lot of that, and sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, there was this big rush of sightings in that," and okay, here you go. Another good example is, if you remember the Chinese balloon incident.
Oh, yeah.
We looked at that, and then MUFON went back through their files, back through the years, and we found 6 absolutely identical experiences, and it was down to the niche. It was exactly the same, and every one of them, though, was over a military installation. So this is a case, I don't think it was extraterrestrial. Matter of fact, the remnants that was picked up had some American parts in it, but overall it was Chinese. So that's the thing we can do. We can go back at least to 1969, and we got files that go back to the 40s. And we, ever since I joined MUFON and kind of got in and knew what was going on, my dream was to build the largest database in the world. And I was reading through one of the older journals and came across what they referred to as Project Aquarius. And I thought, that is so interesting. Well, technology wasn't there. It was 70s. I mean, we was lucky we had 300 baud computers. But as it went on and on and on, finally we reached the point where the technology was there, and we was able to bring Project Aquarius into reality. 1.2 million pieces of evidence are in that that file, and now we're making that available to the members. You go to the website, sign up for it, but if you get in and read just the Stringfield files alone, you'll just shake your head at the people involved. And yeah, we did have to redact it. That's the only thing. A lot of the names are removed, but a lot of them are not. It's just a lot of these folks are still alive today. And from Neil Armstrong to Gordon Cooper you name it, are mentioned in these files. And
oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And the people that were being worked with in Washington and some of the shenanigans that went on. So it's absolutely fascinating. And that's just one group of files. We got tons of them. So I'm very happy, very proud to have been able to be here when this thing got developed. There's a pet project. So it's online now. Everything's there. We literally have the largest database in the world, and most of the other countries where we have chapters have also put all of their national records into this project. So we got pretty good things going here.
That's amazing. So I'm kind of curious, just yes or no only, no specifics whatsoever, but have any Congress people or senators confided in you that they've had their own sightings or experiences?
Yes.
Wow.
I'd rather not go any further.
No, I wouldn't expect you to. I just wanted to know, though, because I think that's pretty important for anyone listening to know that,
Well, there's more than one, but I won't name names. But, in a meeting with one of the Congress people, it was described to me a sighting that I'm even trying to eliminate gender here. That this congressperson was exposed to a sighting. They're little bitty kids, and they saw this thing coming across the field, and they freaked out and they started running, and finally they just fell down and kept their heads down, and they rolled over. It was gone. So I took the description, went through the files, and John Schuessler called me, said, is this what the person saw? And I took it to them, and the person broke down in tears and started crying.
Wow.
It was identical. And I mean, we're going back quite a ways. We do have evidence of such a craft. I mean, lots of evidence. So anyway, yeah, there are people there that they have had the experiences. Like I say, Jimmy Carter himself said he won't laugh at a person that says they saw a flying saucer, because he did. And the response is very interesting.
That is fascinating, and I just think it's really important to put that out there, because today, in modern day, we have people in Washington who, are having these same sightings or experiences, and I think it helps open up the conversation. Just we don't have to know who they are, but the fact that there's a couple of them at least, I think it's important.
David, are there also people in aerospace and Silicon Valley who have confided in you and or are interested in the MUFON data?
Yes, sir, there are. Again, we have people in places, uh, every industry, every laboratory. Somebody knows MUFON, and and are willing to talk about it under certain circumstances. So, yeah, yes, we do. Industry is industry is aware.
So it sounds like we have some preliminary legislation already in place in terms of UAP, which are commonly referred to as UFOs. And it sounds like there might even be more legislation in the works. Is that accurate? And what is your take on the big event of potential, presidential level disclosure?
You know, we've been waiting for years, and so far, I forget the number, but quite a few of the more modern presidents said, we'll give disclosure." Yeah, none of them have. They
Um,
to a position where, have any of you ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Jaime Ishid? He's the head
no.
of the Israeli space program. Brilliant guy. Um, Also an intelligence agent. And you can Google this. He put in writing, he went on TV and he made the statement that when President Trump was in office the first time, he was that far away from total disclosure.
Wow.
Really?
And the aliens themselves waved them off, said, "Don't do this, don't drop this bomb on your people. Small doses. Just let go with small doses." Gee, guys, what do we got going on today? Little bits coming out here, little tidbits coming out there. Oh, here's the tic tac. Oh, yeah, look at that. We don't know what it is. It's probably the Russians. you know, so take it for what it's worth. I'm merely making a statement. I know sometimes that people would say, "Man, you're borderlining insanity," maybe. But when this information is coming from top doggy dogs with standing, reputations, you got to at least give it consideration.
Fascinating. I hadn't heard that before, Mike. That's brand new to me.
Likewise for me. I mean, is there? I'm gonna have to definitely look into that. Is there anything else? Like, I'm just kind of curious. If President Trump in his first term was like super close to doing it, and then he didn't, what was he contacted directly by the NHIs or whatever you want to call them, or was it the members of his staff? I'd really love to know just more details about that.
I can honestly tell you, I don't know. I don't know what else was involved there. But I can tell you, if you get into the records and go back, president after president after president at some point commented on that. You can look this up too. President Clinton, towards the end of his term, he was asked, "You said you would give us disclosure. Why haven't you?" And, and he says, "I haven't because I can't." He says that information is being held by a part of the government that I am not a part of.
Wow.
Think about that. Hey, that you can look it up. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting.
yeah. Yeah, they've all made some comments here and there. I mean, President Reagan said, "What if there was a force or other people out in the universe that would come and help us all to come together? What if?" I didn't go very far, but he said it on TV.
I remember hearing about that. Something like, what if we were all faced with an alien threat not of this world? Our differences worldwide would disappear, or something to that effect. It's really fascinating stuff.
Gerald Ford was told when he asked for more information, he was told, "Sir, you have no need to know. Documented." So
I just can't, like, who has the gall, first of all, and then the authority to deny the president anything that they're asking for?
it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Wow.
I mean, we're living in a fascinating time. And when people would ask me, I'm going back several years, they say, "When are we going to have disclosure?" And I said, I don't think you'll see it in my lifetime, but you're starting to see the small doses coming out. Well, then I got to thinking, maybe I will see it in my lifetime. So I'm closer to the end than I was the beginning, but we'll see.
I hope that happens. That'd be wonderful.
It would be. It would be. So, I mean, we do have reason to be optimistic, but you also have to worry, well, under what circumstances would they concede to give this up? But I do think we're being conditioned for a release.
Check out the entire conversation with the link in the description or the next up screen, and discover all the conversations in the Universal Disclosure Podcast library. We have over 82 hours of consciousness-expanding conversation spread amongst 57 episodes and counting. Smart people from all over the world are joining this conversation, and you can be next. What do you have to share with us?